Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Rogue Raven podcast. I am Ro. If you are new here and you like what I'm putting down, please like and subscribe. The only way I can break through the echo chamber and move through the algorithm is with those likes and subscribes. So don't just scroll. If you like what I'm putting down, like what you're listening to, hit that like button. Okay, so let me tell you about why I'm here. What I talk about. I talk about a Midwestern point of view as I see it. A lot of folks come from the coast, from the South, and I'm right in the heartland. So I really talk about what I witness and all the things that affect us here. And I believe in civic responsibility and the condemnation of fascism at any stage. Doesn't matter if it's where the fascism is, I'm against it, which is what America was built on. We do not do fascism in America, right? And how we move forward in this overwhelming climate in these United States. Okay. Also, if you have any questions or suggestions about, that you would like me to hit in future episodes, please reach out. I like to be community driven and interactive. So you can also find me on Substack and Facebook. And I don't do the TikTok. I don't trust the TikTok. All right, let's get to it. This week has been very heavy on me after the SCOTUS decision last week, and it's made me sit and do a lot of soul searching. And I know that this administration did not start the downfall of America. The downfall of America was started it's decades in the making. Project 2025 has been worked on by the Heritage Foundation since the 80s. Yeah, since Reagan. This administration had the balls to do openly, with the help of Congress, the judiciary, and law enforcement, to do what no other administration has been able to do since the Civil War: to bring pain, destruction, oppression, and open harm to the American people, to cripple the American people with poverty and stock market that is held up by oligarchs. Uncomfortable conditions are being put on the people with extremely high energy costs. So much harm has that I have a hard time finding anything positive to say about this administration and what it has done. It has torn down a part of the people's house. He has torn down a part of the people's house. He has desecrated the people's house so that he can have a bunker that he doesn't plan on leaving. He has renamed military bases after the traitors of the Confederacy. But there's more, and I'll walk down the rabbit hole of harm brought to you with fact. This is my last plea to anyone that has the will to hear this message and take it in, because we are beyond the hill that we want to die on at this moment. I want to go through the demographics that make up this once amazing country and talk about the harm brought to each. And I'm sure that everyone will find their places in this list. The military. Not only are we in an illegal war, a war that we are fighting for the land of it's not real, our military men and women are not being fed properly because they are suffering from food shortages. Our Middle Eastern bases have been bombed. The Secretary of War has fired or dismissed anyone that he feared dissent. Women and decorated men and women of color have been asked to resign for whitewashing of our military and indoctrinate the rest into Christian nationalism by saying that they are fighting a holy war that will bring on the coming of Jesus Christ. Not to mention all the war crimes of blowing up boats without just cause. That's only the beginning. Ordered military actions widely seen as unlawful, including drone attacks on Venezuelan boats that killed at least 156 civilians, condemned by the ACLU and UN experts, are as extrajudicial killings. Threatened war crimes, such as destroying Iran's civilian infrastructure, bridges, power plants, desalination facilities, drawing comparisons to Putin's tactics in Ukraine. Increased domestic military deployments at the border and Democratic-led cities, raising fears of politicizing the armed forces. Covered up extensive damage to the U.S. bases in the Middle East. Slashed VA staffing by over 12,000 frontline roles in 2025 and planned cuts of more than 70,000 employees under Project 2025, reducing benefits access for disabled veterans. We cannot forget the cuts to mental health at the VA. So when our men and women in uniform come home, they will not have the health care that they deserve, leaving folks vulnerable with PTSD, depression, and the ability to assimilate back in a normal life. That is harm. Plain and simple. Okay. So we have the military and our veterans on the train right now. They're in their seats. Let's move on to the environmental and climate. Environmental protections have been dramatically weakened. The administration issued sweeping rollbacks on air and water quality regulations, allowed increased industrial pollution, and reversed emission standards for power plants and vehicles. The Environmental Protection Agency was ordered to hold enforcement of climate-related policies, and clean energy fueling programs were defunded. Public health has been compromised by freezing federal grant funding, which disrupted critical biomedical, environmental, and public health rollbacks. Research at institutions like St. Jude and UTHSC, and by pausing funding on the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, which conducts vital extreme weather monitoring. That is harm. And I can tell you that is harm because I'm living in a state where harm is done due to it is an agricultural state. And our water, now, I feel that the state itself should be doing its own water quality monitoring, but it is federally funded, which means that the state does not have the money in the budget to do water monitoring, water quality monitoring. And I know this because when I was looking through our state and city council budget agenda, water was nowhere on it. It was literally all housing and law enforcement. So they don't have any plans for our water. Our water is number 2 in my state, number 2 cancer causing minerals and deposits and pollutants from pesticides have come into our water, giving people cancer. It's in our groundwater, it's in our soil. It's harm. It's harm. We have not gotten a water quality test since 2024. Harm. Okay. Oh, now let's go to, so anyone who's environmental, who cares about the environment, who cares about our water, who cares about our soil, cares about our clean air, who cares about any of the regulations that have been rolled back to cause harm to us. That means the pesticides, the pesticides to put onto our food is poison. That's harm to us. Okay? Let's move on to the immigrant communities. The Trump administration has implemented policies that have harmed immigrant Americans by expanding mass detention, stripping legal status from individuals, the undermining due process and undermining and undermining due process rights. These actions include targeting long-term residents, lawful visa holders, and even U.S. citizens for detention and deportation, often based on racial profiling or speech or political speech. So if you are a legal citizen or a lawful citizen, you're here on a visa or whatever have you, you got to watch what you say. You have to, you know, don't be in the wrong place while brown or black or immigrant. I mean, and the Supreme Court, Justice Kavanaugh, he he led his dissent in saying that it is okay to racial profile. The Supreme Court is helping along the way. The six conservative bootlickers are helping along the way. What is owed to these people? What is owed for them to go against a constitutional or democratic norm to knowingly cause harm? Knowingly. Okay. Let's move on with over 290,000 people were detained in the first year of the second term, a 19% increase from the prior year, including new mothers, foreign students, and legal residents. Legal residents. The administration expanded expedited removal to apply anywhere in the U.S., allowing deportation without court hearing for anyone unable to prove 2 years of continuous presence. Routine immigration appointments and courthouses became enforcement zones where individuals complying with legal obligations were arrested and funneled into detention. So it doesn't matter if you were doing things the right way, because we have these people on the other side that say, well, I don't care if there's immigrants as long as they come in the right way. These people are coming the right way, doing what they're supposed to be doing, following the instructions laid out by the courts. Yet they're being detained before they can walk into their court hearing, or with these new judges that are there, these new immigration judges that are just there to say, okay, we're just dismissing this case, makes them they have to now leave because their cases have been dismissed after they spent so much time, energy, years here doing it the right way. There is no right way for a minority unless your skin is white. And I'm saying things very clearly. I am no longer sugarcoating anything for everyone to understand what I am saying by relating to people on a personal level that is on the other side. I am done with that. I am putting out the facts. And if you can't handle facts, you need to reevaluate yourself. Because we're no longer in a farce. This is no longer political. This is our reality. This is history in the making right now. Let's move on to stripping legal protections and targeting communities. Temporary protective status was revoked for over 300,000 Venezuelans and threatened for others from other countries like El Salvador, Haiti, and Somalia. The administration sought to end birthright citizenship and planned to denaturalize up to 200 U.S. citizens per month in 2026 based on dubious claims of fraud. More than 1.6 million American immigrants lost legal status, including DACA recipients and humanitarian parolees, making them targets for deportation despite longstanding community ties. there was a militarization of systematic erosion of rights. When you put the U.S. military in to help, okay, let's rewind. The U.S. military in Guantanamo Bay were repurposed for immigration, detention, and deportations, including to third countries with no ties for the individuals. Because if they go to a third country that there are no ties, that are really far away, they have no way to come back here. They have no family, they have no friends, they have no nothing. Nothing. And we don't know what situation they're in once they land into this third country. Are they going to another detention center? The only way that you know where you're going is if you self-deport back home. That's the only way. And hope that they make good on that $2,000 they're going to give them to go back home. The point is fear. To inflict so much fear that you don't want to be here anyway. Well, hell, the citizens have a hard time being here anyway, watching all of this go down in front of their faces. Real time, in your face, playing in your face all day, every day. Flood the zone, flood the zone. Steve Bannon, he told us exactly what was going down. But no one wanted to listen. It's going so fast. The lives that we knew have the memories that we have are all we have left to hold on to of the old America. When we were happy, when we were content, when we went to work with no problem. All we wanted to do was go make our bags and go home and go live. We can't do that no more. Now we have to have 2-3 jobs to make something, to just put groceries on a table. And holy hell, if you have no kids, I am so sorry. If you have kids, I'm sorry. You know, we don't have kids, but we were used to a lifestyle. We were used to a certain lifestyle. And when you can no longer afford that lifestyle that you were having, then you find yourself in debt. Okay, let me go on now. There are so many other atrocities that the administration has done to the immigrant communities. Like turning Minnesota into a war zone, causing harm to the American people, harm that ended up in death to the American people. We can go back to Renee Good and Alex Peretti. Harm. I see nothing good so far. The people that he put in these positions were sadists, diabolical sadists that just wanted to play dress up and follow the same script. Let's move on to the LGBTQ communities. Now, this administration has sparked a culture war for less than 1% of the population on the trans community. You don't have to agree with someone being trans. You do not have to agree with someone being gay. You do not have to agree with anything that anyone does in their bedroom. You don't have anything to do with anything that has in someone else's household. It's not your problem. But when I tell you that when they come for one, they come for all. And even if you don't look at the LGBTQ community as your brothers and sisters, you better look again. okay? Because they will fight for your rights as well. So let's go to them. The Trump administration has implemented numerous policies of harm against the LGBTQ plus Americans, particularly targeting transgender individuals through rollbacks of health care protections, discrimination in federal services, and hostile rhetoric. The denial of health care and gender affirming care, discrimination in education, military, and federal systems. The administration rescinded Obama era guidance that protected transgender students' access to restrooms and sports consistent with their gender identity, and Department of Education stopped investigating discrimination complaints from transgender students. In 2025, Trump signed an executive order banning transgender people from military service, labeling them incompatible with military discipline. Transgender individuals were also barred from using single-sex federal facilities aligned with their gender identity, and federal passports began reflecting sex assignment at birth instead of self-identified gender. Appointing over 200 federal judges, including 3 Supreme Court judges, many with documented anti-LGBTQ records, blocking data collection on LGBTQ populations, and the 2020 census and federal health surveys. Allowing federally funded foster care and agencies to discriminate against LGBTQ people based on religious objections, withdrawing protections for LGBTQ asylum seekers, and prioritizing religious minorities over LGBTQ refugees, erasing LGBTQ terminology from federal websites and internal communications, including banning the words like transgender, gender, NHHS. Woo, that's a lot of letters. Okay. So, a lot of harm to our trans folk, which is less than 1% of the population. All of the hateful rhetoric. It reminds me of they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, they're eating the pets. No boys and girls sports. Da 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 da. Less than 1% of the population. You have people out here with what are those things called? Petitions. Just telling anybody, oh, can you sign this? It's so girls won't go, boys won't go on girls' sports. They're not telling them that it's an anti-trans bill. They're not telling them anything. When these people are supposed to read these petitions, no matter what petition it is, verbatim to the person they want to sign. This is what's happening. Okay, like I said, you do not have to agree. I can care less if you agree or disagree. The point is, when they come for one, they come for all. So now we have the Alphabet Group on the train with the military and anyone who is pro-environmental and and the immigrants. Okay. Now let's move on to my people. The African American Black community on the campaign trail, Donald Trump said, I want the vote from every African American. You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs. 58% of your youth are unemployed. What the hell do you have to lose for trying something new? Okay. Well, this is where Black MAGA walks in and allowed this to happen as well. The Trump administration has implemented policies that critics say systematically harm Black Americans, particularly through dismantling of diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. So whenever a lot of white Republicans say DEI, they mean Black. But they forgot something, but I'll get to that in a minute. Erosion of civil rights protections and attacks on education, health, and economic security. Executive orders signed in 2025 eliminated DEI initiatives across federal agencies and federally funded institutions, banned consideration of race in federal hiring and promotions, and led to mass layoffs of Black federal workers, undermining a key pathway to middle class stability. Key harmful actions targeting Black history and education. An executive order labeled the National Museum of African American History and Culture as diverse, leading to leadership resignations, while federal website removed Black historical figures and relics of slavery, including the iconic scourged back photo from national park sites. Now, if y'all have never gone to the National Museum of African American History, it is amazing. This museum you learn something. I learned so much about my people, where they started and where they became and where they are now. When we're in school, we get a textbook that gives you one paragraph about slavery, maybe two. You go through the hits. You go through Harriet Tubman. You go through Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, a little bit of Malcolm X, and you're lucky if you come out learning the Black National Anthem. Nobody talked about Nat Turner. There are so many stories, so many Black voices, so many entrepreneurs, innovators, geniuses. The light bulb would have never been if it wasn't for Black people. Oh, yeah, so we know Thomas Edison invented the light bulb, but he did not invent the filament which went in it to keep the light going, to keep that nice glow. We did that. You like that peanut butter, don't you? We did that. We did a lot of things. That stoplight, we did that. That open heart surgery, oh yeah, that was us. So much more. GPS. Yeah, homie. GPS was us too. All the things that make our lives so much better, a lot of it came from my people. And you learn that at the top of the museum. All the great things that we have done. But you got to start from the bottom and go through the pain and the hurt and the oppression and the stories, the sadness, the death. You got to go through that to get to the top. And they want to erase all of the bottom. Okay. They weakened civil rights enforcement. The DOJ reversed voting rights protections, halted police reform investigations, and dismantled civil rights offices across agencies like the Education, Labor, and the EEOC. Harming economic and health equality, cuts to Medicaid and Affordable Care Act, and nutrition programs disproportionately impacted Black communities. The administration also rolled back student loan protections, reduced Pell Grant funding, and undermined HBCUs, while environmental deregulation worsened health disparities in Black neighborhoods. These actions have been described as by civil rights leaders as and advocacy groups as resembling post-Reconstruction era policies. With the NAACP warning of a system of medical apartheid, the others citing a broader rollback of racial progress. Now, not only with that whole DEI came with firing thousands of black people out of the government, a lot of them women. DEI being pulled out of retail, being pulled out of TV, network news, even MSNBC. Yes, liberals, Democrats, we know that we used to love the MSNBC because we got our Rachel Maddow and we had our Joy Reid and so many other black journalists fired, gone because of that ring kissing. Now, so black people are now on the train, okay? There's so much more that's been put on us that we can't get to it in this one because we have to go to women next. Sorry about ear itches, y'all. I'm sorry. Okay. So women, that's me, that's a lot of you. There's a lot of us, y'all. There's so many of us, they don't want us to vote. So many of us, they don't want us to vote. They think that we should be at home birthing some babies. The man should be voting, not us. Yeah. The Trump administration has implemented numerous policies that have harmed women by rolling back protections of health care, employment, education, and civil rights. These actions, particularly during the second term beginning in 2025, have targeted reproductive rights, dismantled diversity equity programs, weakened labor protections, and restricted access to essential services. The administration froze $27.5 million in Title X grants, cutting funding for family planning and services and reducing access to contraception and cancer screenings for over 800,000 low-income Americans. So I want to put a pause real quick there. So even if you weren't trying to do anything, you weren't trying to go and get an abortion or something, because God forbid, you were raped, sexually assaulted by a family member, maybe, and or maybe you were late stage and you realize that this child is not going to be viable and will poison you to death while it dies inside of you. Yeah, all that's, rolled back, and you for damn sure can't go to no southern states. Okay. It withdrew federal defense of emergency abortion care under EMTALA, rescinded guidance requiring hospitals to provide stabilizing abortion care in emergencies. Like I said. And dropped legal challenges to state abortion bans, including Idaho's law that blocks abortion even when the patient's health is at serious risk. The administration also moved to impose tariffs on foreign-made contraceptives, threatening affordability and cutting funding for women's health research at the NIH and CDC. The administration rescinded Executive Order 11246, ending decades of anti-discrimination protections for federal contract workers and cut staff at the Office of Federal Contract Compliance Programs by 90%, effectively dismantling enforcement. It fired key civil rights leaders, including EEOC commissioners and the NLRB's first black female board member, Gwen Wilcox, leaving agencies unable to function. The EEOC was repurposed to target diversity programs, falsely labeling them as illegal and stopping enforcement protections for transgender workers, undermining anti-discrimination efforts. Additionally, Medicaid cuts and restrictions on graduate student loans disproportionately impacted women whose dominant fields like nursing and social work. We need these women to be nurses and therapists, and not only just therapists, the social workers. What if there is no one to do social work? These children who end up in a system that have no one to help them work through the system. That's a caseworker. It's a social worker. No one to advocate for them. Okay. And I love me some nurses because nurses calm you down. But when they don't want to have the nurses to have the education or the degree, why would these people even go to school? It's to keep us dumb. Education and civil rights rollbacks. The administration banned DEI considerations in higher education, threatening federal funding for schools like Harvard unless they eliminated diversity initiatives. It terminated the NSF grants focused on women and minorities in science and cut programs supporting women in trades and wildland firefighting. Those seem like good jobs that we need. We need science. We need wildfire fighting. We need, we need these things. We need them, okay? The Department of Education was directed to close and defund civil rights enforcement offices, fired over 1,300 employees, and withdrew funding from states allowing transgender athletes equal access to sports. Social Security's Civil Rights Office was closed, and identity verification requirements were tightened disproportionately affecting older women's beneficiaries. In other words, when you close the Social Security office and you live in a rural area and you have to go to the Social Security office because your husband just passed away and you got to get all of his stuff taken care of, and now you have to go down there and in person, knowing daggone well you are old and on your last anyway, and find all his stuff, figure it out, blah, blah, blah. Or what if you already have been collecting his Social Security checks? What if then? And now they stop your check until you physically go down there and deal with him versus be doing everything over the phone like you are used to. Older people don't get out very often. When you get to a certain age, you need help. When you get to a certain age, you don't get to keep your car keys. When you get to a certain age, you have a telephone, and that's what you're going to use. You're lucky it's not a landline, and you got mama and papa to be able to get on a cell phone. They don't know how to use it, but they know how to call the Social Security office and the bank. Okay? They still call the bank. They don't believe in no online banking. I tell you what, they sure don't. My daddy, he will never get on that online banking. Okay. Now, where was I? Okay. Let's go to, so now women are on the train. So we have everyone on the train, almost, right? Now let's see if we can get some more folks on my train. Let's talk about the economy. The Trump administration has implemented policies that have harmed the economy by reducing worker protections, cutting federal employment, posing disruptive tariffs, and advancing regressive tax cuts. These actions have weakened labor market conditions, suppressed wages, and created economic uncertainty, eroding workers' wages and economic security. The administration rolled back the federal contractor minimum wage, reducing it from 1775 to lower levels, and finalized rules that cut farm workers' wages, costing them $4 and four sorry 4.4 to $5.4 billion annually. Wow, that's a lot a year that these farmers have to. It also stopped enforcing protections for home health care workers. Real quick sidebar. I always said when I get old, I want home health care because I want to die at home in dignity. Well, we see that that's been cut. Not really cut, it stopped the protections for it, stopped enforcing protections for it. Denying 2 million minimum wage and overtime pay, and rescinded guidance limiting cryptocurrency and the 401ks, imposing retirees to high risk. So our 401ks, they're playing with our money. We have been putting into our 401ks like we're supposed to. We're doing everything we're supposed to do. They told us to do good in school so you can go to college, so you can get a good job that has good benefits and a 401k for you to retire on. But they're taking that money that we put in there, instead of paying another bill, they're taking our money and putting it in crypto. I don't got no daggone crypto. I don't trust it. But now my money is playing in a high risk game of poker. Just bumping up some million and billionaires. Not me. Not me. Not me, not you. Unless you're into that kind of thing. If you're into that kind of thing, then roll the damn dice, but not me. Undermining job creation and government function. Over 290,000 federal jobs were cut in 2025, with additional losses from halted infrastructure funding. Pause apprenticeship programs and mass deportation policies threatened millions of jobs. The administration also froze federal grants, disrupting research, small businesses, and clean energy products, while slashing funding for DEI programs and institutions reliant on federal support. Increasing inequality and inflation risks. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act disproportionately benefited the top 1%, with 83% of gains going to the wealthiest households. Deficit finance tax cuts, combined with spending reductions to safety net programs like SNAP, Medicaid, have increased inequality and reduced aggregate demand. Chaotic tariffs policies and attacks on the Federal Reserve have raised recession risks and undermined long-term productivity growth. Okay, so the tax cuts. Now, I work in a restaurant, so I was able to get the overtime and the no tax on tips, but it's not forever. It's not an every year thing, and you can only claim but so much. When he ran on he said no more taxes on tips, but they're already being taxed, and then you can't get it back until the end of the year. Like, it's just, okay. Now, and also, when you have gone and arrested and deported people, shut down restaurants, warehouses, meat packing plants, It's going to cause some kind of disruption. It's going to be bad for business. You're going to see prices go up, wages stay stagnant, and no one is going to be able to go out and to the hospitality side of life. People are going to take fewer vacations because they simply can't afford it. Food is very expensive, and also gas is very high. I mean, when are we gonna draw our line there? When are we gonna draw our line at the when do we say that I'm not putting this gas in this car no more? When are we gonna say, well, I'm just gonna ride this e-bike? When are we gonna say we are not gonna feed this damn beast anymore? Okay. Now let me go down to did I do ag? All right, let's do ag. All right. The Trump administration has harmed agriculture through sweeping USDA staff cuts, elimination of climate and conservation programs. I think I did ag. Yeah. Maybe not. Maybe not. I got thrown off because I had to go on my rant. I apologize. I apologize. I really do. Um, no, I didn't do ag. Okay, yeah. All right. So, the administration has harmed agriculture through sweeping USDA staff cuts, elimination of climate and conservation programs, retaliatory trade tariffs, and broken funding commitments to farmers. These actions have disrupted critical services, reduced market access, and increased financial stability for family farms. Yes, the family farm is being bought out, gone bankrupt. They sold, this government done sold out our farmers. We're getting beef, crap, shit beef from Argentina. We can't sell our soybeans because China and another has already made other arrangements with somebody else. We have been sold out. The family farms are struggling. They are struggling bad. The beef herds, the cattle herds have been slimmed. Down south in Mexico, they're having their own situation with beef. So we're not getting our beef from Mexico because they got screwworm in their cows. Harm has been done. Harm has been done. Inflation. High meat. Can't afford beef. For real, I go through the meat department, right? And I can't eat pork. It makes me swell up. So, I don't do no swine. Um, I'm, but I go to the grocery store, I go to the meat, and I just look at it. I don't even buy it no more. I'm gonna have to eventually to keep it stocked up. But I just look at it and I just see the prices rise. Price for fish rise. Any I mean, this is it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And we're feeling the pain at the grocery store. That is harm. Okay. Now, let's go to red states. And yes, red states. When I say red states, I mean I'm talking to you, old GOP, centrist Republicans, and a lot America First and the MAGAs. Because America First and the MAGAs are two different things. I've learned. I mean, they're similar, but they're different. Okay. Now, let's start with you, red states. I live in a red state. I sure do. The Trump administration's policies and funding decisions have disproportionately harmed red states. Despite their political support for Trump, primarily through cuts to federal education, public health, and clean energy programs, these actions have created economic and social strain in Republican-led states, with many losing billions in federal aid due to refusal to challenge the administration legally or participate in lawsuits. No, they won't fight. They will not fight for their. They will hold that man up like a golden statue and bow before they will fight for their rights, for their freedoms that they keep talking about America for. The old red, white, and blue. You will defend this man for taking away your freedoms and bow down like he's a damn golden calf before you say no. No. This is not America. But I digress. Let me keep going. Oh. Education funding cuts have put red states at significant risk as they are more reliant on federal programs like Title I and Pell Grants. 7 of the top 10 states receiving the most Title I funding, Texas, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, voted for Trump in 2024 and together received about a third of all the Title I. Excuse me. Similarly, red states received $17 billion in Pell Grants funding, supporting 3.6 million low-income students, compared to $13 billion in blue states. Proposed eliminations or reductions to these programs under Project 2025 would disproportionately impact red states. Public health funding losses further illustrate the harm. After the Trump administration canceled nearly 700 CDC grants worth $11 billion, Democratic-led states that sued, such as California, New York, and Illinois, had nearly 80% of their funding restored, while Republican-led states like Texas, Georgia, Ohio, Oklahoma lost over 95% of their grants because they didn't fight. They didn't fight for their education. They did not fight for their children to be educated, to be made smarter. Oklahoma they're at the bottom of the barrel of education in the country. Maybe instead of buying a daggone Trump Bible, you should buy a history book, a math book, a reading book, and learn. Learn. And fight for your rights, your civil, civic, and social rights. Okay, where was I? I got excited again, y'all. I got excited. This has weakened the public health infrastructure in red states, affecting responses to disease outbreaks, mental health services, and substance abuse programs. Additional impacts include tariffs on critical imports, such as a proposed 25% of tariff on Canadian potash that threatens farmers in red states like Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky, raising costs for their essential fertilizer. The administration's weaponization of federal funds, withholding or freezing aid bias on political alignment has created uncertainty even if supportive states undermine long-term planning for infrastructure, health, and economic development. While some red states have mirrored Trump's DOGE initiative to cut government spending, the federal funding freezes and politically motivated audits have destabilized programs that will benefit working class residents in those same states. Working class residents. Working class. People that go to work every single day and they're not making it. People that have 2-3 jobs. There's only 24 hours in a day and you got kids that need to go places too, but they're doing it for survival at this point. The South is home to 54% white non-Hispanic, 18.2% black non-Hispanic, 19% Hispanic or Latino residents. An additional 3.7 identify as Asian, and 4.1 identify as multiracial, non-Hispanic. So think about this. White folks in those red states, this affects you. The 18.2 black folks, they already knew what was up. You are the majority in these red states, white folks. And you're keeping yourself poor on purpose. And you're wondering why you are poor now and why you putting $5 gas in your gas tank. And God forbid you got a Trumper truck. That diesel's pretty high, right? So my question is, what were you really voting for if you're just getting pain? Because all I see left is racism. And that racism is getting expensive if that's the case. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm hot today, y'all. I'm hot today. Okay. Now that we've done all of that, I want to go to the promises that he has kept. Now, I've talked about a couple of these, and I want to tell you that everything here that I'm going to read to you, that the promises that have been kept are the promises. Well, none of these are what I've heard from Trump voters saying that they wanted, okay? Because when I remember they said they wanted cheaper eggs and affordability and, yeah, cheap eggs, affordability, okay? All right, ready? The Trump administration has kept several major promises beyond immigration, particularly in the economic policy, deregulation, and cultural issues. So, culture war, that 1%. Deregulation, that means rolling back on any protections that will keep us healthy. And economic policy, which is no tax on tips. And then, not to mention, he made sure that DEI was out. So let's go the economic and tax policies. He fulfilled his pledges to deliver large tax cuts, including no tax on tips and no tax on overtime, which were enacted through the Big Beautiful Bill in July 2025. The law also extended his first-term tax cuts, eliminated taxes on Social Security benefits for certain recipients, and provided deductions for tipped and overtime wages through 2028. Remember, I said that it is not a forever thing. 2028. So at the next election, we're done with that. Deregulation and energy. The administration unleashed American energy production by approving record drilling permits, lifting environmental restrictions, and expanding pipelines aiming to make the U.S. a dominant global energy producer. It also rolled back Biden-era climate initiatives and ended so-called woke DEI programs across federal agencies, corporations, and universities. Cultural and social policies. Trump signed executive orders banning transgender athletes from women's sports, reinstating the military's transgender ban, and directing federal agencies to recognize only two biological sexes. He also moved to defund gender-affirming care for minors under Medicaid and Medicare and targeted diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, requiring federal agencies to dismantle DEI offices and pressuring private institutions to do the same. So he's ran on attacking. He was able to attack. So there's nothing good happening but attacking. He's attacking the people. It doesn't matter if you agree with them. It doesn't matter if you disagree with them. It doesn't matter if you can't walk a mile in that person's shoes. It's not your business, because it doesn't affect you until it affects you, right? Okay. Government reform and national security. The administration purged alleged deep state elements from the DOJ and FBI, pardoned Jan 6 defendants, and launched investigations into government weaponization. It also advanced plans for a Golden Dome missile defense system, citing progress in preventing global conflicts and brokering peace deals in multiple regions. Let's break that one down, shall we? Let's start at purge alleged deep state. He is the deep state. That administration is the deep state. That regime is the deep state. Pardon January 6 defendants. He pardoned insurrectionist traitors to the United States. Proud Boys, 3%ers, Oath Keepers. He pardoned all of them to later on become a part of his own personal paramilitary called ICE. And what do we all say, boys and girls? Fuck ICE. And launched an investigation. And okay, so now he's launching investigations into government weaponization. So he has weaponized the government. He has indicted anyone who was ever against him. Anyone. I will not be surprised if he tries to indict Barack Obama because he was black and better. I am not surprised if he will indict Joe Biden next. I will not be surprised when he indicts anybody who has gone up against him and said anything of an unkind word about him. Which is probably why they're making all of these detention centers all through the daggone country. So I don't know, maybe to roll back to slavery. Since we're just going ahead and just, rolling back, just dismantling the Constitution. Anyway, where was I? Okay. I get a little hot. I tell you, I get a little hot. One day I want to have a guest, and that way I can, just banter that way, because I want to get lost here. Oh my gosh, we're past an hour, but I'm almost done, y'all. I swear, I'm almost done. Okay. Now, the Golden Dome, they're trying to be like Israel, and they, whatever, because, they got to covet whatever. Um, now, this is one thing that really is going to affect a lot of us. Now, is anyone thinking about why Palantir was so important? Why Peter Thiel is so important? Why, which we know, Peter Thiel backed JD Vance. Go do your homework on that, y'all. Go do your homework. But they was very good friends, and Peter Thiel, he backed his JD Vance's book that became a movie that nobody saw, and all of a sudden now Peter Thiel has government contracts. So let's talk about Palantir. Since they put out their manifesto last week, let's talk about Palantir's vision for America. As outlined in CEO Alex Karp's 2025 book, The Technological Republic, and its associated 22-point manifesto centers on merging Silicon Valley's technological capabilities with the military-industrial complex to secure American global dominance through hard power rather than diplomacy. Damn. That means no talking, just blowing. Key components of this vision include technological militarism. That don't even sound right. That just sounds dystopian as hell. Dystopian as hell. The company argues that Silicon Valley owes a moral debt to the nation and must shift focus from consumer apps to building AI-based weapons, surveillance systems, and software for national defense. Shift from soft power. Palantir asserts that the limits of soft power have been exposed and that American security now depends on technological deterrence and the capacity for force, moving away from an all volunteer military towards a model of universal national service. Technocratic governance. The vision promotes a techno oligarch approach to where engineering elites and private industry leaders take the reins of governance. That means we're going to be ruled by the tech bros, y'all. Arguing that traditional liberal democracy is insufficient in addressing modern existential threats. That is scary. In order for that to happen, we have to vote away all of our rights. Or they just come and take it from us. I think that a lot of people are stupid enough to vote away their rights, and I am praying that they will wake up, America, before that happens. Cultural and geopolitical stance. It advocates for Western exceptionalism, criticizing vacant pluralism, and suggesting that post-war restrictions on nations like Germany and Japan should be reversed to maintain a balance of power against rivals like China, Russia, and Iran. So that means that we are supposed to be in charge of the West. And Germany and Japan, they're going to be in charge of anything that's over on that area. This is what they work on the background while they're dishing up all this harm to us, to our faces. Surveillance and control. The plan involves integrating Palantir's data analytics into nearly every government agency to enable mass surveillance and data-driven decision-making for law enforcement, immigration, and intelligence, viewing this as an essential for public safety and national security. Safety and security. They are going to put this in every piece of government, saying it is for safety and security. And you may not be thinking that's something bad, but what if I tell you that this is the infrastructure for replacing civil servants such as law enforcement and digital tracking for every American? Putting policies into place to replace privacy and personal privacy for public safety and security, also laying a foundation for digital ID. That takes away all anonymity to everyday life. Where you go, what you buy, when you bought it, who'd you pay, how much your bills cost, every transaction, as well as the ability to turn off your money. DOJ was given the power to steal every American's private information for a reason. And we just stood back. All we did was they doing what? They're touching our stuff. They touching our stuff. When we're saying the house is on fire, they touching our stuff. But nobody wanted to put out the fire. They just took our shit. Just took it. Y'all let Elon and Big Balls up in there to take our shit. While we're here looking for a hero to come and save us from them taking our shit. There's got to be somebody in there with sense going to stop them from taking our stuff. No, there wasn't. Social media is being monitored and reported. If you say the wrong thing, you can get shadow banned, which means that the platform suppresses your content or you will be demonetized or banned from the platform. The attack on our First Amendment is real. If you have an anti-fascist ideal, you are shamed and told that you have TDS, or you're called names like lib and we'll call it the lib T, because I don't want to say it because it's rude. Or snowflake, that we're in our feelings. We're told by the Supreme Court that racism doesn't exist anymore, yet young black men are being hung in trees. People are getting detained without due process for the color of their skin, and black people are being shut out of voting because even though a lot of black folks, we are conservative. But we're liberal with our vote because we vote out of survival. We vote for what is good for us and everybody. We vote for your best interests. You may not be, we don't care what color you are. We don't care who you are sleeping with. We don't care what church you go to. We don't care if you don't go to church. We don't care. But we know that the rights that we would like to have, we know that you want to have them too. Right? Like this First Amendment we love so much, that has so much encompassed in it, that makes us us. Because without the First Amendment, we are nothing. We vote for that. We fight for that. And anybody who wants to knock it down, we take it to the booth. The Trump administration has taken multiple actions criticized as harmful. So then I asked, how about white people? What has the Trump administration done to harm white folk? And it says, the search does not indicate that Trump administration has taken action specifically intended to harm white people. Instead, the documented policies and executive actions focus on rolling back DEI initiatives, weakening civil rights enforcement, and promoting a colorblind interpretation of anti-discrimination laws, which is a bunch of bullshit. It weaponizes civil rights agencies the administration directed the EEOC and other agencies to investigate companies and law firms over DEI programs, framing them as discriminatory against white men, despite long-lasting evidence of systematic inequities. So what they're saying is that the EEOC is now, I'm sure y'all have heard the commercials. Has anyone heard the commercials about the EEOC? And like, if you are a white man who has been discriminated against, please call us too. You can call us and tell us what is going on, and we'll be there to help you. Are you out of your daggone mind? Who's the snowflake now? I'm white and I've been discriminated against because I'm white. You are the majority. You have the House, the Senate, and the White House and the SCOTUS. You got all of it. How are you being discriminated against? You need to be quiet. Shoot. Then we're going to prioritize white South African farmers. Prioritize white South African farmers. A refugee policy drastically reduced overall emissions, but only allowed white South Africans to come into the country because, oh Lord, because they felt that they had. Oh God, let me read it, because if a refugee policy drastically reduced overall emissions, but allocated nearly all slots to white South Africans based on unfounded claims of genocide favoring one racial group over others. In other words, apartheid served white people well in South Africa. And then apartheid was done, and the black folks said, oh my gosh, I can go and live a good life. I can go and get a job. I can go to school. I don't have to be segregated in slums. I can and worry about the police and the military taking my home away. I can go and work next to a white person. I don't have to be discriminated and separated apart. So they said, they're taking our jobs. What are we going to do? They're taking our jobs. There's nowhere for us no more. Us white people, us white South Africans, we need to go to America where they're trying to make it more white again. And so they came, and well, guess what? 70% of them took their asses back to South Africa because they said that them here living in the United States, they thought they were going to be uplifted and get priority. And they're living in squalor and hotels. And if they have a place to live that's not a hotel, they have them living in places that are rampant in crime and have roaches and mice. Well, welcome to the hood, baby. You got sectionated. So they begged the South African Prime Minister, can I please come back home? Prime Minister, let us come home. We want our citizenship back. And you know what? They got their citizenship back, and they sure did went back home because they missed the vibe and their family. Executive orders targeted federal and private sector DEI efforts, labeling them anti-white, and led major corporations like Accenture, Pepsi, Citigroup to scale back diversity initiatives. So they did everything, the Trump administration did everything to help the white person who already had more pay, already had their foot in, already had their privilege, and they made them feel that they were being discriminated against because they were white. Because a black person or a Asian person or an Indian person, they got the job that they wanted. Well, you know what? They probably went to school. They probably, for that job, they have the experience of that job. They've been doing that job. And just because you want it, you just can't be a daggone wine tit and just be crying because you didn't get the job. Somebody else got it. Go get another daggone job. You still got your privilege. No one trying to take your privilege away from you. We just want you to check it. Check your privilege. No one's trying to replace you. You're trying to replace us. That's the great replacement theory. I've gone over an hour and 20 minutes. And I appreciate anyone who literally hung out with me through this whole rant, for real, because it's a long one, and I appreciate y'all. Let me get out of here. It's getting late. I just want people to wake up. We are done trying to convince people to come on over to the side of right. Now, I'm not saying you want to come hang out with me because it took you too long to draw your line. Because at this point, it just seems that the line is you're hurting and not any empathy for anybody else. Just America is not going in the right direction. And I am so outspoken about it because it's a country that I love that has never been kind to my people or myself. I'm not saying as in friendships with other races. I'm talking about the fundamentals of policy. We have grown so much. It took us so long to get to where we are now, and it's just all falling apart. And it's all, oh gosh, how do I say this? The president is a useful idiot. It's those that are around him who are smart. I'm not talking about the cabinet. I'm not talking about Whiskey Leaks. I'm not talking about Cash App. I'm not talking about any of them people. I'm talking about the people behind the mask. Who was it? The CEO or CFO of the Heritage Foundation. He has a PhD in African American Studies. That means that he studied. He stayed in school long enough for a PhD to bring this down, to study Black folk and how we rose to tear us back down. They're smart people. Don't let them fool you and make you think that they're stupid. They're not. But we need to rise to an occasion, folk, because what do you do now? Where do we go? Where do we go? Who are our leaders? And I want to be very, very honest. I have never been a midterm voter. And it wasn't until the administration that I realized that change starts in your town. It's not up in Washington, it's here. This is where you get the people. The body comes from local, state. So it all starts here. So we need to pick the right people. And listen, I know that there is a lot of infighting on the left about who the right people are. And it's very hard for us to agree on a lot of things. But right now, there's two things we need to look at. Two things. One is who is going to do the best for us. And if we can't get that person, who is going to do the least to harm us? That's it. That's it. We need to rise to the occasion. We need to put our thinking caps on. We need to read our histories. Because it rhymes with the future and the present. Okay, that's it. I'm done for the night. Thank you for watching. It was a long ride. I only do this once a week now, and I have a lot of build up. So even if no one even watches this, at least I got it out. But I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again soon.